Hey man, you still trying to figure out how to get them Cactus Jack, Travis Scott, highest in the room vocals? I gotcha. What's up, family? Welcome back to another Wavy Wayne tip of the day, and today is gonna be a dope one, I promise you, man. And if you want to just skip this video right now and go ahead and go to wavywayne.com and download the Travis Scott vocal template that I already made that I'm about to show you anyway, then go ahead and do that. Wavywayne.com, download it right now. The description down in the link and all that. All right. Now, simply put, man, I love that highest in the room song, and so I was like, dang, man, them some dope vocals. So I wanted to recreate that with this new template that I have. And so I basically just went into Pro Tools. I downloaded the instrumental of highest in the room. I started recording, and then I did a mix on those vocals so that I can make my vocals match the Travis Scott vocals. With this session, we're going to listen to it first. We're just going to take a listen, see what I have, and then I'm going to break down track by track. I just got 3 tracks. I got the main lead vocal. I got like this background harmony vocal singing kind of thing happening, and then I got some standard ad-libs. I didn't do the whole song, and I probably messed up on some of the lyrics and cadences or whatever, but you get the idea. It's gonna have that same feeling and vibe as the Travis Scott song. So let's just go ahead, jump into it, listen to it, see what we got. You smell me? All right, so let's just play this from this section here.
I got room in my fumes. She fill my mind up with ideas. I'm the highest in the room. Hope I make it out of here. She see my eyes, she know I'm gone.
Yeah. So that's pretty dope. I know y'all thinking, dang, that sound like Travis, but it ain't. It's me. That's Wavy, man. So we're gonna break down these 3 tracks and see how we can emulate this sound. And again, I do have this whole template ready for you to go just like this. All right. So basically, let's start off by muting the background and focus on this lead vocal verse, whatever, you know what I'm talking about. So what I did here on processing is pretty simple. I started off with a de-esser. I always like to knock those S's out. So let's just actually bypass all of these plugins, and then we'll bring them in to see what we are sounding like, kind of one at a time. We'll leave the time-based effects on, and I also am using some parallel compression. I'll take that off too, but we'll leave the reverb and delay on because y'all know, I mean, we need that to kind of add to the vocal.
In my fumes.
So this is what I originally had.
In my fumes. She feel my
let me get some of this stuff. Is still going.
In my fumes. She fill my mind up with ideas. I'm the highest in the room.
All right, so basically the de-esser is just taking off any S's, and I'm using the RDesser standard that's stock with any wave. That's not stock, but it does come with your waves bundle. So if you got like the diamond bundle, or I actually had a horizon bundle, so that comes with that, man. All right, and then next, after I do some de-essing, I'd like to do some compressing. So right now on this compressor, I got it set to about a 6:1 ratio. It's about 5.84, a moderately fast attack and a pretty, medium release, but it just goes with the flow of the song, and you'll see how we are attenuating some of those peaks here.
In my fumes, she fill my mind up with ideas. I'm the highest in the room.
So the whole point with the compressor is to even out that vocal. I don't want anything to jump out and become troublesome for me, especially when we listening at really loud volumes, man. Stuff that is annoying could kind of peak out. And so the compressor is going to control those dynamics and just make the vocal a little more smoother and even overall in tone. Next up, I'm going into my auto-tune. And for this one, I am using the auto-tune EFX. Now, I do have the auto-tune Pro also on this track, but it's disabled. The reason that I have it there is because for this template, it depends on which auto-tune you have. Now, I have both. I have the EFX and the auto-tune Pro, but you can do this same thing with either one. Now, I did choose to use the EFX mainly because there is this cool little vocal trick that I used, this vocal preset that I use for the Ad-Lib track, which just makes it a little bit easier to get that Ad-Lib sound. But You can use Auto-Tune Pro or any auto-tune that you have, really. And when we look at the settings here, it's pretty simple. When you're working with a Travis Scott type vocal, the auto-tune just pretty much goes all the way up, man. Turn that thing all the way up, the retune speed up to 0. We ain't trying to humanize it or nothing. I want it to sound computery, so all I did with this auto-tune plugin was turn that retune speed up all the way to 0. All right, so that's pretty simple on that. Obviously, it's gonna sound better with the auto-tune.
In my fumes, she fill my mind up with ideas. I'm the highest in the room. Hope I make it out of here. She see my eyes, she know I'm gone.
All right, cool. And next up, we got an EQ. So let's just go ahead and bring our EQ in. One of the main things that I always do with my EQ is roll off the low frequencies. Any low frequency, super low stuff that we don't need in there, I like to get rid of it. That way it makes room for that nice bass and kick to pump through, and the vocals don't get mashed up and muddied and hidden by all that low end stuff. And also I did a low pass filter as well while I rolled off some of these high frequencies, because sometimes the vocal are just too bright and it has high frequencies that we just don't need in there. So I start off my vocal EQing with using a high pass filter and a low pass filter. Now I didn't do too much other adjustments. I didn't take out too much stuff. Maybe like right around 150, I dipped out about 2 dB. I dipped out about another 1 dB at about the 500 spot, and then I actually boosted about 1 dB at about 1700 spot right there. But where I do have a massive kind of boost here is on the high end with this high shelf. I'm boosting by 5 dB at pretty much everything above 4.5K. Now that's gonna be crucial to getting that Travis Scott sound, because his vocals tend to be very full on the low end. That's why I didn't take a lot of low end out, but they're also very bright on the high end too. So we keep that fullness of the lows while also adding a lot of that high end sheen that is kind of popular for that Travis Scott sound. And then right after that, I guess we can listen to how this sound.
In my fumes, she fill my mind up with ideas. I'm the highest in the room.
Okay. And obviously before it was a lot more muddy.
In my fumes,
you can hear that low frequency.
She fill my mind up with ideas. I'm the highest in the room. In my fumes.
All right, so we getting a whole lot closer with that EQ. So next is simply I'm using the RVox. Now I really like this RVox because it does so much to the vocal. Not only do I get this gate, but you also get a really dope compressor on here that really kind of smashes that vocal. And right now I got it all the way to -10, so that's really going to give me some pretty hefty compression on this vocal. Let's listen to the difference before and after. And the gate obviously is going to clean up that noise floor. If we listen in between each one of these takes, we can hear a little bit of the headphone bleed coming through. Now of course you can go in and edit that stuff up, but this gate on the RVox does a really good job at cleaning that up.
In my fumes, she fill my mind up with ideas. I'm the highest in the room. Hope I make it out of here.
Right? So you see, you hear that noise floor from the headphone bleed pretty much goes away.
In my fumes, she fill my mind up with ideas.
And that vocal is more compressed and more forward, and it still has its dynamics as well. So I really like to use that RVox a lot of times, especially when I want that vocal to really sit out front. So next up on this vocal, I am using a C4. The C4 is a multi-band compressor, one of my favorites. And let's just break down what I'm doing here as well. Matter of fact, before we bring that in, let's listen to this mix in context.
In my fumes, she fill my mind up with ideas.
So we getting closer.
I'm the highest in the room.
Especially when we add that reverb back in.
In my fumes, she fill my mind up with ideas.
And we'll talk about what I did for the reverb as well. But simply, let's go to this C4 multi-band compressor here. And typically what I'll do with a multi-band compressor, let's just bypass all of these, is I'll start off with the low frequency. And as I'm working with that low end, I'll find out what pretty much how much I can squash that low end. Because I pretty much, you see, I'm really attenuating the low frequencies by a lot. And I got my crossover on this one set to about 61 hertz.
In my fumes, She fill my mind up with ideas.
It probably could stand to go a little more.
I'm the highest in the room.
See, if I move it any much more, then I start to lose some of that low end fullness that I really want to keep. So I'm gonna just keep it back where it was at. And then I'm gonna bring in my high band here.
In my fumes, she fill my mind up with ideas.
And the point here is just control the highs in the same ways that we're controlling the lows. And as I control those highs, and I'm really kind of compressing them pretty hard, I am adding a bunch of that gain back in. So I'm boosting it back by 5 dB again.
In my fumes, she fill my mind up with ideas. I'm the highest in the room. Hope I make it out of here. She see my...
All right, and then we're just gonna bring in some high mids and some low mids and let those be compressed as well. And this is really gonna help to smooth out and even out that vocal.
In my fumes.
Right, especially that high mid frequency. Let's listen to this.
In my fumes, she fill my mind up with ideas.
Right, so we can hear how that kind of is just kind of jumping out a little bit. But when I engage this section of the compression, it really gets controlled a whole lot more.
In my fumes, she fill my mind up with ideas. I'm the highest in the room. Hope I make it out of here.
And now on the low mids, I really am putting some pressure on there because I am wanting to keep them full without taking out too much of the low mids. So by compressing that low mid range a little bit more, it's just going to allow me to boost that low mids without having any problems, without having anything kind of jumping out and sticking out too much. So that's why I'm really kind of compressing the low mids a little heavier than the high mids.
In my fumes, she fill my mind up with ideas.
And it sounds like it might be a little much on there, so I'm just going to ease it up.
In my fumes, she fill my mind up with ideas. I'm the highest in the room. In my fumes, she fill my mind up with ideas. I'm the highest in the room.
Dope. So now that vocal still sounds just a little bit a hair thick. And so one thing that I did here was grab the Air Kill EQ and I rolled off some of those lows that I said I want to keep it full, but the Air Kill EQ just does something crazy. It gives me this crazy balance. So let's listen to this with it in.
In my fumes, she fill my mind up with ideas. I'm the highest in the room. In my fumes, she fill my mind up with ideas.
So I feel like I'm still getting the body from the low, but it just like controlled a whole lot more when I use this Air Kill EQ, and then the high frequencies were able to really kind of shine.
In my fumes, she fill my mind up with ideas. I'm the highest in the room. Hope I make it out of here. She see my eyes, she know I'm gone.
Yeah, so I really like what that Air Kill EQ is doing. And this one is a stock Pro Tools plugin, so you guys should definitely have this. Pretty much all I did was back off the mids a little bit, boost the highs, back off the lows by about 6.7 dB. And then, yeah, I mean, I chose which frequencies, but that's really it here on this EQ. Just another little level of EQing to really get that Travis Scott sound.
She fill my mind up with ideas. I'm the highest in the room. Hope I make it out of here.
All right, and then the last plugin that I have on here, which I don't really have on the template because I know a lot of y'all don't have this. I never even introduced this to y'all before, but I'm gonna introduce it to y'all now. This is the Antares Punch Evo. Now this plugin is really great on vocals. It's great on the beat. It's great on different instruments, kicks and snares and pianos. It's really good for pretty much anything that you put it on. But in this case, I'm using it on this vocal, and it has 3 little sliders, very easy to use. It has a gain slider, the impact, and then it has the ceiling where you can control, because that ceiling is typically set to -3 because you're going to end up boosting that gain and it's going to get louder. Now I don't really mess with the impact so much when I'm working with vocals unless I really want to get some smack out of them, because it does add a little bit of artifact. So sometimes I'll use that on like Ad-Libs or something. But for this case, on my lead vocal, all I really want to focus on is that gain, and I want to use this to bring that vocal up to be back in the pocket of my mix.
She fill my mind up with ideas. I'm the highest in the room. Hope I make it out of here. She see my eyes, she know I'm gone.
Yeah, so that adds a little bit of gentle presence. It adds a little bit of compression and increases the dynamics a little bit, man. This is doing a bunch of little things with just this one little slider. I didn't even mess with the impact on it. All I did was increase the gain. So I really like that feature. Another thing let's jump into, because we talking about gain and presence and dynamics and all that, is going to be this P-Comp track. Now this P-Comp, that stands for parallel compression for me, and what that is a full level send out pre-fader. And if you need help with setting up parallel compression, I do have a full tutorial on that somewhere. I'll leave a link, just search my page for it. But the parallel compression chain is set up in this template already for you, and simply what I'm doing is sending out from this vocal over to this lead box compression track, and I'm just squashing the hell out of it with this Maxim compressor. Let's just actually solo this, and so we can see what it sounds like.
She fill my mind up with ideas. I'm the highest in the room. Hope I make it out of here. She see my eyes, she know I'm gone.
So that's what I am adding to this vocal. So what we were hearing there was just the compression track, and I'm using the Maxim limiter. Again, another stock plugin with Pro Tools to really kind of squash that vocal. This is going to help me to bring that vocal even more forward when I add and mix this in. So typically how I would do this is I would start off by just lowering the volume of the parallel compressed track and bring it into the mix. Now let's just go ahead and get everything in there.
She fill my mind up with ideas. I'm the highest in the room. Hope I make it out of here. She see my eyes, she know I'm gone.
Right, and that really adds some presence to that vocal. Let's hear before and after.
Fumes. She fill my mind up with ideas. I'm the highest in the room. Hope I make it out of here. She see my eyes, she know I'm gone.
Yeah, as presence and depth, I really love using parallel compression. All right, so let's see. Besides that, we do have this room reverb that I got going on, and it looks like I have a lot of stuff happening on that reverb. Let's just look and see what's going on with that reverb track for a second. So I'm using the Reverb. I started off with that, and I chose a room setting as my reverb type. I did add some pre-delay to it, right? And I calculate the pre-delay by just kind of listening and feeling, but typically sometimes I will do my whole pre-delay calculation where you use the algorithm of 60,000 divided by the beats per minute, and then start dividing by 2. But you can't just grab a feel for the pre-delay. The pre-delay on this will basically just help to separate the reverb from the vocal, which ultimately can give you a longer reverb time without having longer delay times, right? So I don't have to make this so long, but it's just gonna start the reverb a little later. It's gonna delay the reverb before it starts ultimately. Yeah, I bought the early reflections pretty much all the way down here. And yeah, this the reverb sound, man. I'm rolling off a lot of the lows and the highs here. I'm just getting kind of that mid-range stuff going on. Then I'm also compressing that reverb because I want it to kind of stay in the same place the whole time. I don't want the reverb to be dynamic at all. I want it to stay in the same pocket throughout the mix. So that's why I am compressing it. And then I went on ahead and added another EQ just to be sure that I'm controlling the low frequencies. I don't want any of those lows from the vocal through the reverb to come back into the mix. So I'm EQing the output of that reverb to make sure that the low frequencies are off as well as the high frequencies, because again, we just don't want nothing to fight with the vocal in this mix. And then I'm using an imager because I really wanted to spread that reverb out even further than it was. I want it to be a really wide reverb, so that's why we are using the S1 imager. And all I pretty much did was boost it up the width until I found a nice setting where I felt like it was gonna sound good and wide for me.
In my fumes, she fill my mind up with ideas. I'm the highest in the room.
All right. Now let's see, am I using any of this other stuff? Yeah, I'm using a chorus plugin, which is gonna help to make this vocal just thick. a little bit more, and I'm using the doubler, the Waves doubler on here to add to that. And I also delayed it a little bit more. So with my chorus, I like to kind of get, you know, a little freaky with it. So I not only am I using a doubler, but I'm also using a delay, and it's just adding like a little bit of slap delay, very short delay times, with 67 milliseconds on one side and 56 milliseconds on the other side. So this just giving me like a little bit of slap delay going on. And of course, like I said, I don't want anything to really fight with the main part of my vocals. So I'm using a high pass filter and a low pass filter on this chorus effect as well, just to keep everything nice and clean and contained where I want it to be in the mix. And I'm sending out from the chorus over to more reverb again, just to kind of wet that chorus effect up. I felt like it needed it at this point. So it is totally fine for you guys to use sends on your effects. So I'm using a send from my effect channel. And I'll do that sometimes. You can see here, even on the delay, on this quarter note delay track, I have the room reverb ready to go, and I'm not actually sending any level, but oftentimes I will if I'm using it. I might not even be using this quarter note delay in this actual mix. But I know that I am using some of this eighth note delay. Let's just listen to what that sounds like when I bring that in. It just adds a little bit of space to the mix.
In my fumes, she fill my mind up with ideas.
Right, so that's just a very short static delay. You can hear it echoing just a little bit, but it's really just to kind of create that vibe in the space for the mix. I ain't really trying to go crazy with the delay sound, because then I have to do some automation and stuff. And especially for this type of Travis Scott vocal, he don't really use a lot of delay. If anything, it's a very subtle delay that's kind of tucked away, and that's what the point is here, the idea.
In my fumes, my mind up with ideas. I'm the highest in the room.
Yeah, so it really gives some nice bounce to that mix. Are we using this one? Nope, we're not even using that. So that's it for the lead vocal. So let's go ahead and move on to our background vocal track, this harmonic background vocal. Let's listen to that.
My mind up with ideas. I'm the highest in the room. Hope I make it out of here.
All right, and so some of this I need to, no chorus effect, but definitely bring that room reverb back in. So what I'm doing with this, simply the main magic on here, obviously, for the most part, it's going to be this doubler effect, man. I just inserted the Waves doubler directly onto that background track, and let's listen to it before and after. Now, of course, you know, I'm doing some de-essing, compressing, and of course, I'm using auto-tune, same auto-tune settings as the previous track, and I'm using EQ. But on this EQ, I wanted more of a kind of telephonic effect, so I'm really using those filters pretty heavy on this one. So that's how we get that. And of course the RVox again, and that doubler is what's really giving this thing that effect that we listen to. So let's bypass this and listen to it.
I'm the highest in the room.
So here we are. Now that's just that vocal with the EQ and the auto tune and compression going on. Now let's go ahead and bring this doubler into the picture. That really spreads that thing out very far amongst these speakers. I really like that. Listen to it again. And then when you add this reverb on there, very nice. Now with the reverb, I am using it as a pre-fader send. Typically for reverbs and delays and time-based effects, when you're sending them, you want to use it as a post-fader send, but I am using a pre-fader send because I wanted to really get a lot of reverby sound, and I wanted the reverb sound to be independent of the track's level, the direct sound, right? So I may want to kind of tuck that back in the background, but really have that wide lushness of the reverb still be more present. So that's when you would actually switch over to using a pre-fader send, when that way the level of the actual track that I'm sending from has no effect. You see this is all the way down -13. So even if I turn this all the way off, my effect level stays the same, which is the whole point of setting it to pre-fader, because I can get less of this actual direct sound in, so it's not interfering with that vocal again, but everything on the sides, the width and the reverb and stuff like that will still fill up the speakers.
She fill my mind up with ideas. I'm the highest in the room. Hope I make it out of here. She see my eyes, she know I'm gone.
All right. And lastly, all we have is the ad-libs, man. The ad-libs on this one were pretty straightforward, pretty easy to work with, because I use this Mike Dean preset from the Auto-Tune EFX Plus plugin. Now, again, same stuff here. I start tracks off the same way. I'm de-essing, I'm compressing to control those dynamics, and then I'm using the Auto-Tune EFX Plus, and I went under Mike Dean and chose the ad-lib setting. Now I might have I think I changed some of this on where my cutoff frequency in the filter is at a little bit, but this is what this track sounds like with the ad-libs. And if you notice too, that sounds pretty dry. One of the other things that I did, the same thing that I did with the background vocal track, I actually sent off to my room reverb using a pre-fader send, so that we can get a lot of reverb sound like that vocal has in the song.
Yeah. It's lit. Yeah.
So pretty dope there. And also on this track, I have bypassed the Auto-Tune Pro and the EQ, so that we can emulate the same preset settings that we have using the Auto-Tune EFX. So and with that, I just obviously use a high pass filter and a low pass filter, and we really focusing on that kind of high mid range to really create that ad-lib sound effect. And of course, the Auto-Tune retune speed is just all the way up to 0, man, fast as possible for this. And yeah, and when you mix it all together, this is what we get.
I got room in my fumes. She fill my mind up with ideas. I'm the highest in the room. Hope I make it out of here. She see my eyes, she know I'm gone.
All right, and that's how I would get the Travis Scott vocal in my Pro Tools session. Thanks for watching this video, y'all. I really hope that it's been helpful in helping you get that Travis Scott sound. Don't forget that this template is available for immediate download. Save yourself a bunch of time. Save yourself a bunch of time. Just download the template right now, and you can get started using my settings already ready to go. All right. If you like this video, be sure to thumbs up and subscribe, and don't forget to turn on the notifications, because you never know when I'm gonna put something else up. Thanks for watching this video, man. Y'all are dope. Continue to be dope. I'm out.